Basically, what we were trying to investigate, and it ended up in this poll, was what actually were the forces preventing change in working arrangements within professional business services firms. And one of those, conventional stories that you hear is normally that basically professionals really don't like working from home. So that's one of the stories that we hear. Another story that I actually found a lot more plausible was that there are a lot of beliefs around expectations of losses in productivity as a result of institutionalized forms of remote working arrangements. So basically, what I think emerged from those polls is that this second story about expectation of losses in productivity is somewhat true. I mean, we've seen that actually people think that, people report they used to think that remote working arrangements are somewhat connected to losses in productivity. And it's amazing that these empirical expectations have changed in the face of the COVID-19 crisis and in the face of experimenting actually with remote working arrangements. So this is something that is really, really important to understand, because if those empirical expectations on productivity in remote working arrangements change, then also the default position on working arrangements could change, shifting from working from the office to working from home. And what I found also particularly relevant coming out of the poll is the idea, is the question of surrounding conventions and social norms, right? So what I think COVID-19 has dramatically changed, and the lockdown has dramatically changed, is the default position. And so, imagine you work in a professional services. You don't have to imagine, but I do have to. So when you work for professional services firms, you have empirical expectations on what other people do. You observe your colleagues, you observe your peers. They show up at the office every day, right? And so you know that in circumstances X, those people will do Y. So in a normal working day, they will work from the office normally, right? And then you also form normative expectations. So you think that other people think that you should do the same, essentially, right? And so that's the sort of peer pressure. Perhaps it's not explicit, it's totally informal, and it stems from your observation of the workplace, right? What happens with a lockdown, with a crisis such as the COVID-19 crisis, is that those empirical expectations are reverted entirely, right? You do not observe those patterns anymore. And so your normative expectations are not tailored to those empirical expectations. You get to talk to people about working arrangements, and so you form new beliefs. And that's why we see that the peer pressure that was there before the lockdown is not there anymore. And so the key message that I think we should get from those polls is that how firms want to arrange work after the lockdown is entirely up to them, and it's about shaping people's expectations. So if managing partners of firms really want to incentivize remote working because they now believe it has no impact on productivity, it could actually make firms save money on premises and estate or things like that. It's about shaping people's expectations, right? So if you want to do this, it's just about talking to people and making clear there are no strings attached to people who choose to work remotely. There are no informal sanctions connected to that. Your career path is not going to be impacted. On the other hand, if at the end of the day, because it's really early to actually tell what the impact on productivity will be, you'll figure out that actually working from the office has some really important implication, then you might want to go back and revert those social norms to where they were before. So it's all about shaping empirical and normative expectations in order to understand how to manipulate working arrangements within the firm. And